All right, so hello everybody. It's April 20th. It's still 2020. It's a Monday. It's also episode 27 of the More Knowledge Show. So anyway, to start off with, probably the top headline today is that the price of oil is negative. It's not the only headline. It's one of the few days in a long time where the main story has not been about the coronavirus, but it may actually revert back to the coronavirus because, of course, it was reported like very recently that in LA County, it was like the initial reports were off by like over 50%. So like 5% of Los Angeles has the coronavirus. And I'm pretty sure that's going to cause the stock market to just crash. The stock market's already closed as I'm speaking, but I'm almost certain that's going to like cause a major panic because, you know, it means that the coronavirus is not subsiding the way a lot of people thought. You know, in Florida, we had a lot of the stuff was reopening. People were all walking around. You know, a lot of the places around the country, they're kind of thinking about ways to reopen the economy. But of course, if it's found out that we don't have a slightest clue about how many people actually have the coronavirus, how are we going to be able to reopen the economy? In fact, I mean, at this point, you know, it's quite possible. I mean, pretty much everyone's out of school right now. If you're not out of school, then you should probably sue, you know, hire a lawyer or something, because it's no reason why you should be in school at this point. And it's not just, even if you're not in a place that is affected by the coronavirus, I mean, it's kind of unfair if you have to go to school and the entire country is out of school. Well, it's really, yeah, it is unfair. It's unfair. I think everyone should be out of school at this point. Okay, and chances are you may not see a school building for a very long time. The way, if you look at the trajectory that we're heading down, it doesn't really seem to be getting much better. You know, of course, the president wants it to get better because he knows if this thing gets really bad, eventually it's going to come to a point where even his supporters might start turning on him. Because, you know, because, I mean, look, even if you support the president, all right, even if you love his economic policies, you know he messed up here. Okay, like he openly to the public, it was not like some private conversation where he was downplaying the coronavirus. No, like openly he was telling people it's not a big deal. And that's kind of a big mistake. Even if he really thought it wasn't a big deal or acted as if it wasn't a big deal, he should not have said that to other people, because then it sends a message of, you know, you can be complacent and not worry about it. And that right there is exactly how these type of viruses spread, is when people would just act casually. So, you know, maybe it would not have been as big of a deal, but he did not handle it good from the start. And of course, he can save himself if the virus, if the virus ends quickly, the economy reopens, and we see improvements around the election time. But of course, if that happens, then he can just claim that as a victory. He can say, look, I saved the world, I cured the coronavirus. But if that doesn't happen, then he has to fully take the full blow of his mistake. And that's obviously not going to be good for him. And you know, because a lot of people who support Trump, you know, anyone who supports any politician, you're gonna hold on to that support very stubbornly. It's the reason why I don't really support politicians. I more support ideas, you know, because like when you support a majority of these politicians, if you go throughout their career, they change on their position like 20 times. Okay, Trump now is not the same Trump in the 90s. In the 90s, I think I saw a video. It was like an interview. Trump was talking about like open borders and stuff like that. So these politicians change their views over time. And like, so the politicians are always going to change their views because, once again, you got to remember, their job is not really to serve the public. The job of the politician is to get elected and stay elected. So, of course, naturally, part of that is changing your views and to keep up with the times to stay popular. So you're never gonna have a politician who just stays. Like, a politician could be on the same, like, a left wing, right wing, could remain, you know, a Republican or a Democrat their entire career, but their views change. And, you know, which it's like that with any politician. So that's why I would not advise supporting a politician and just adhering yourself to that politician in all situations, because many times, you know, then your views are gonna have to be forced to change because of them. So it's kind of brainwashing. You know, you can't really think for yourself when you do that. And I forgot what I was really talking about, but yeah, I mean, I think that's a point worth mentioning. But anyway, the president. What about the president? Oh yeah, the coronavirus. Yeah, I forgot what I was talking about. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I remember what I was talking about. So people are very stubborn with the politicians that they choose to support. Of course, you know, if you come public about it, if you say I'm a Trump supporter, and then you don't want to look like an idiot and be like, oh no, I was wrong. Or, you know, it's typical human nature. But if someone in your family dies because of the coronavirus, then that will probably override your desire to not look like an idiot. So that would, you know, that would force you to change your perception and probably vote against the president. And so we kind of have this thing right now where everything happening has never been seen before. You know, today the price of oil went negative. Now it's kind of misleading because the price of oil is not really negative. It's the May futures contract which is negative, but it's still never been seen. So when you have something like, so it's never been seen, but it's not like the price of oil is actually negative. But when you have a bunch of things that have never been seen before and they're just piling on top of each other, you don't know how to respond. Because a lot of times we respond by using models, okay? Or we use these processes that get repeated, these problem-solving processes, okay? So we notice a problem, that we have a process, and these processes were created out of past experiences. So something that we experience, how do we solve that problem in the past? And then we kind of replicate that same model towards solving problems. But the problem is when new things come up that you've never been seen before, and then you try to apply old thinking to them, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. Those mistakes are going to compound on top of each other, and then you get a big crisis, pretty much. And it's kind of the force that's going on in our world right now. We don't know how to handle nothing that we're being dealt, because, you know, we've never seen a pandemic like this in our lifetimes. We've never seen an economic crisis of this nature, where the economic crisis is that people literally are not allowed to go outside. We've never seen this type of crash in the oil market. Everything has not been seen before. So when you have that, and then you have a bunch of people who are just frantically trying to respond, because people need to respond as fast as possible, because it's like a life-threatening situation, right? It's a pandemic. You have small businesses who are literally going to go out of business in a couple weeks if they don't get money. You have all these things. You can't balance that. It's literally impossible. It is not. You could have the smartest president, with the smartest cabinet, the smartest people around him. We are set up to fail. Okay, it's just the way. It's what we're facing. We are set up to fail. Now, of course, there's always things that we could have done so we were not set up to fail initially in the first place. But people make mistakes, and you have to account for that. People are always going to make mistakes, and then, you know, we always have to be prepared for that fact that we could end up in this type of situation. You can't just assume that the people in charge are these intelligent experts. And even if they are intelligent experts, you can't assume intelligent experts really can, you know, pretty much solve anything, because they can't. And now, you know, I don't really see too much reason for optimism at all, in no area. Not the stock market, not the economy, not in. I guess the only good thing going on right now is the Michael Jordan documentary on ESPN, but besides that, we're pretty much dead. So yeah. Anyway, besides my usual negative talk about how bad everything is that's going on, it's pretty easy to talk about how bad things are. But, I've actually been pretty consistent about this. I've been talking about how bad things are before things got really bad. I didn't know it was going to be a pandemic. I just said that the way our world is configured, all these conflicts that are brewing, it's going to become a crisis. And it was inescapable. And so I did predict that. I did not predict what was going to cause the crisis. I think it's much easier to analyze the environment and say what's probably going to be the end result, but you don't know each step-by-step thing that's going to lead you there. So I knew that something bad was going to happen. I just didn't know everything that was going to happen to cause that bad thing to happen, if that makes any sense. I know I'm talking pretty fast right now, but yeah, it's probably the best I talk fast, because if I talk slow, then I'm going to forget what I'm saying. So anyway, I do want to talk about the economic numbers that released last week. I mean, the stock market, as usual, was not too concerned about the economic numbers, but I do think that they are worth mentioning, especially when you contrast America's economic situation with China's economic situation. And of course, the situation in China is going to be improved right as of this moment, because they had to handle the virus before we did. But it's important to realize, I think we are getting the worst case scenario. We're getting worse than the expected worst case scenario. China is not getting the worst case scenario according to their numbers. And that also is not surprising, because like I said, a few weeks ago when this virus thing was starting, I was like, in America, the way our culture is set up, the way our system is set up, you're not just going to be able to tell people stay at home and people are just going to listen. You can't do that. In China, you can. In China, you can pretty much put a gun to people's head and force them to do whatever you want to do, whatever you want them to do to move any type of agenda. So it's more efficient in that sense. It's not more desirable to live in, but in a crisis scenario like a pandemic, China has an advantage. China can also lie and brainwash their people. So it's a two-sided coin. I still prefer the American system, but it is a weakness in that sense. I think that's shown very well with all these protests that are going on about the coronavirus. I'm honestly not too sure what these protests are about. I'm not sure if they're protesting the virus, if they think that protesting is going to make the virus go away. They're probably protesting the forced business closures, but I mean, it's obvious why we need to have these forced business closures. If the virus spreads, it's going to get to a point where so many people are sick, who's even going to be able to work? So people aren't really thinking too much. People are filled with emotions. It's kind of like I said earlier. When you're met with a situation where you've never seen before, you can't solve it logically, because you have no prior experience to look back on. You have no process. There's nothing you could say, all right, let's just do A, B, C, D, and then the problem solved. It's more like, we don't know what to do, so let's just panic. Let's just do a bunch of things, and let's just act emotional. And let's act emotionally. And when that happens, you get bad results. And I think the protests are kind of a result of that. People aren't thinking. People are kind of just, people are kind of just thinking one-sided about it. Like, our freedom is being taken away. Freedom is good. So if you're taking away freedom, you are bad. And we need to protest you. Even though you're not looking at the bigger picture, but it's kind of hard to see the big picture. So I'm not going to... I understand for the small business owners who are making no money from this. The small business loan program is not doing too well. I understand the frustration. I think that's going to be expected. But of course, I would advise anyone watching this video to use your brain, because I think, if we Americans, if we make too many mistakes and we don't have much left. And I know that's kind of crazy to say, because it seemed like a couple months ago everything was just normal, but we really do not have much left. Like, we've screwed up a lot, and things are kind of coming to a closure. So we need to clutch up and be smart right now, and stop worrying about these protests. Stop trying to protest a virus. Stop trying to protest, social distancing. Like, it's kind of a ridiculous thing to protest. And I know it's not a lot of people, but it just reflects a bigger problem, specifically for America when it comes to this type of situation, because it's an expectation of always having freedom to do whatever you want, but with a virus you can't have that type of freedom. So how are you going to do that? How are you just going to turn on those values that we've been celebrating for a couple hundred years, and all of a sudden now it's just like, no, you're not allowed to go anywhere. So yeah, but I do want to talk about the economic numbers real quick. So the sales for consumer spending fell about 8.7%. Industrial production fell 5.4%. Housing starts fell over 20%. The unemployment insurance numbers over the past few weeks have been 22 million people filed for unemployment insurance. So I think I heard somewhere that is basically all of our job growth since the last financial crisis has been wiped out. So in like a month, we've pretty much undone all of our progress over the past 10 years. And yeah, it's a minor inconvenience right there. But if you look at the numbers in China, while they're still bad, the economy contracted for the first time in their recorded history, because China did not really start recording economic numbers for a long time, until like the 90s or something like that. And even when they started recording their economic numbers, a lot of them were lies. But I think it's pretty obvious that the economic crisis in China is not nearly as bad as it is in America. If you look at the numbers, their crash did not fall as fast and as powerful as it did in the US. And what this means is that while we're going to be stuck, our economy is going to be bad for a long time, China's going to rebound, and China's going to get ahead of us. And economic leverage, was the tool that the US was using in the trade war against China. We had economic leverage over China. That was very powerful. Now that's gone away. So it's just something to think about, because I think, at the end of this, China is, while morally, I guess you could argue, America, we are better than China. But really, that does not matter. Money makes the world go round. If they can get economic power from America, they will win. It's as simple as that. And their system, their style of government will prevail. That's how it works. It really all comes down to economics. It does not come down to morals, no matter what you think is right or wrong. Okay, if their economy can be more efficient than us, if it can produce more than us, if it can, attract more investment than us, China will prevail. And China's going to get a big economic advantage, really, from this virus. We're not going to, if our economy is collapsing, meanwhile China is slowly getting better, how are we going to pressure China in a trade war? We're not going to get anything that we want out of China now. And slowly it's going to erode America's, priorly held global dominance. And, that's going to be a big shock. I think that's going to be a big story for the entire, for the next 10 10 to 20 years, that's going to kind of be the main point of conflict. And this virus right now is trending in China's favor. I know China's getting a lot of hate, probably rightfully, in some sense, because, you know, they've been lying about a lot of their numbers. They've been misleading people. They've been doing a whole lot of propaganda and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to the economic numbers, China is going to be better than America, and they may end up winning as a result of it. But you never know. You never know how fast things can change. And I know that America will not go down without a fight. Let's just hope it's not a physical fight. Because if that happens, then, like I said earlier, we don't really have many more mistakes that we are allowed to make. We really need to clutch up here. Or, you know, I think that it's almost time to call it a day. Anyway, that's today's episode of the More Knowledge Show. As usual, well, hopefully, we'll probably be back next week. Hopefully, we'll still be alive by then, not infected by the virus. But if we are still alive, I'll be there talking to you guys about whatever just happened over the past week. Over this next week, as of I'm standing right now. Anyway, have a great day.